Welcome, everybody, to the Enlightened Entrepreneur Podcast, and thank you for joining us here to build livelihoods that matter, be your own boss, and make the world an even better place. I'm your host, Julie Sampson, director of the Scheinfeld Center, and let's get to it. Well, we know that 2022 is dubbed the Year of the Worker with the Great Resignation and Reshuffle in response to the pandemic. The question is, how can businesses leverage this opportunity to redesign the workplace for greater equity and a more rewarding and engaging experience for workers? In this final episode of our 5 podcast series, we finish up our exploration of the transformative impact of employee-owned businesses, especially as it relates to employee-owned trusts. Do employees experience a difference in the culture, rewards, and responsibilities within an EOT business? And does the ownership structure meet the current needs that employees nationwide are asking for? Providing some perspective on all of this are 3 employees from EOT businesses. Joining us from Montecito, California is Nicole Elias. She is soon to be vice president at Montecito Estate Management, a boutique estate management company, when their transformation to EOT is complete. From Ontario, New York is John Farley, who is group leader in the Optical Coating department at Optimax, a high-precision optics manufacturer that formed their EOT in 2020. And from Portland, Oregon, John Forsyth is a loan processor at Equity Atlas, a mortgage company that's transforming how home financing is managed, and they formed their EOT in 2017. We're grateful for all 3 of you joining us here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we jump in, let's give our audience a quick definition of employee ownership. So we could say that employee ownership is where a company's employees are full or part-time owners of the business. And there are different types of employee ownership. One type is the Employee Ownership Trust, also called EOT for short, and it's a trust that holds some or all of the shares of a company for the purpose of providing financial benefit and governance rights to the employees of the company. And if you'd like to take a deeper dive on that, this is the 5th podcast in this series. The other videos are linked below in the video description, and check those out to get up to speed. But back to our panelists, let's start right now, right off the top, with how long you've worked at your current EOT company and whether you experience any differences working for this EOT company versus other work experiences that you've had. So Nicole, could you start us off with that? You're kind of in the unique position of currently going through the transition to EOT.
Yeah, we are. We're just about rounding it out. It's a longer process, about 11 to 12 months. So we're on the tail end. And so far with our transition, it has been vastly different. I can't speak to how it will be afterwards and longer term in the future, but even just now, I mean, the responsibilities and kind of what you hold within the company is very different, and it feels different. It matters more. All of your efforts contribute to something bigger. So it feels good. And it's definitely a different approach to working. And I'm grateful that we're doing this and have the opportunity to be so invested. So it's felt good.
Yeah, awesome. And how long have you been with Montecito Estate Management?
I've been here for about 2 years.
Okay, great. Oh, wow. That's some nice upward mobility that's going on.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, congratulations. So John Forsyth, what's your take?
I mean, it was all brand new to me. I came on board with Equity Atlas maybe about 10 months ago, and I've known about employee ownership. There's not a whole lot of it going on in Georgia, where I'm from. I moved to Portland, Oregon a couple years ago. I know they tend to think more progressive out here in the West, so that's partially why I came out here. And sort of got lucky finding Equity Atlas. I was just looking for a job, and I came to a hiring company, a temp agency, a nonprofit, and I somehow landed a job at Equity Atlas, not knowing what an EOT was and not really knowing the benefits. It just seemed like a good job that I had the skills for, which is really just some math and some computer skills. It's not anything crazy, but learning about the EOT and employee ownership, I mean, I have a competitive pay rate, which is great. The work I do is not monotonous. Yes, I process loans, but because it's employee owned, I'm also doing whatever sort of needs to be done, and I don't feel exploited though. That's the biggest thing. It's just stuff that needs to be done so the company can move forward, so operations go, and I'm happy to do it because you're treated differently. You're not just a number or like a means to an end. The sole purpose of Equity Atlas is to create good jobs and take wealth back that's being exploited from the traditional banks and the regular mortgage industry. A lot of it is centralized in a lot of banking institutions that just hoard the profits and gouge people out of their money. So the whole purpose of Equity Atlas is to redistribute the wealth, and I highly value those aspects about it.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. Business, it can be such a force for good, and it's just so awesome to see that happening. Yeah. And John Farley, how about you?
Yeah, so I've been at Optimax for just about 4 years now, and I came from a company where I used to live that was the opposite of this. So when I started at that company, it was a privately owned company, and within a year they sold out to a multinational corporation. And then when that company came in, that started with layoffs and everybody kind of walking on eggshells and kind of just kind of that hanging over your head all the time. So when I was looking to change jobs and I moved from Massachusetts to here to upstate New York, one of the things I was looking for was a privately owned company, something with stability that really valued their employees, and that's what Optimax brings to the table. And with us transitioning to the EOT at the end of 2020, as Rick and Mike are starting to transition towards their retirement, they wanted to make sure that this company stayed for the employees, and the same thing that happened to me at my last job did not happen here. So that's certainly been a highly motivating factor, and you can see the difference night and day between the last job versus the employees and the hard work that we put in here. And everybody really cares about their job here versus kind of like John said, you're just a number on a spreadsheet at the last job and just kind of waiting to see when the axe was going to fall. So
yeah. It's really interesting because there is this silver tsunami going on where a lot of the boomer generation who have had businesses are going into succession, and what you talked about in terms of like an acquisition happening or something like that, it can be so hard on the employees and create the culture like you were describing that it's just kind of sad to see, right? And so it's really uplifting to hear about your experience with the EOT and kind of what that's generating. Are there any requirements that you needed to meet before, like you could really become an employee owner in the EOT, or did it start right from the get-go? John Forsyth, would you like to lead us off?
Sure. As far as Equity Atlas, there wasn't, I described the small bit of skills I needed, which is some computer and some math skills, but otherwise the Equity Atlas, the way it's governed or constructed is so that, the EOT allows you to just sort of hop in. The shares are issued as new employees come on board, so it's not like I had to go jump through some hoops to be granted employee ownership. It's sort of built in the framework. And I'm still not exactly sure how it functions. I'm not technically in the nitty-gritty about how the framework works, but I know you interviewed one of the founders of Equity Atlas, Brad Hippert, and he has told me numerous times how they just took a fine-tooth comb trying to hammer out this EOT framework from, porting it over from the PPT, the perpetual trust. So no, I didn't really have to do anything special to become an employee owner.
And John Farley, how about you?
Yeah, same. So with the EOT that we have here, the EOT is really the main, and there's sort of three main tenets to the EOT here. Is that number one is to not sell the business. It's to remain, within as we are now. Number two is to share profits with the employees. Optimax has a great program where we share 25% of the profits every month go back to the employees in the form of a bonus check, which is obviously a good motivator to keep working and keep working hard. And then the third tenet is to continue to grow the business, both technologically and to continue to grow the employees and help everybody prosper that way. So in that sense, for me, not technically being an employee owner, but being under the trust, the only real qualification for that with the profit sharing program is that once you're here for 3 months, you're technically eligible to start accumulating. And once you hit 5 years, then you're fully vested in that program. But other than that, yeah, that's about it.
Amazing opportunity. And how about you, Nicole?
We're still in the process of working through the details, but it's my understanding that there will be some eligibility requirements. So we'll kind of finalize what those will be and utilize them moving forward.
It seems something that's nice about the EOT is that businesses can kind of tune it to, their individual needs and, vision for the company and all that. There's the basic foundation, the premise about what it is, but it's nice that there is that flexibility. Like Equity Atlas started off as an EOT right from the get-go. Optimax came along down the road, and Montecito Estate Management, the same thing. So that's interesting to hear about your different experiences. So can you talk about the responsibility that you carry as an EOT owner? Like, I think it becomes more clear with the company, however the company is performing, it's going to affect, how your experience of the benefits of the EOT. So are there any, what is the top responsibility that you feel like you need to take on to really make the form of employee ownership at your company work? John Farley, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say, the top responsibility I really here is just to show up and do your job and do your job well. Hard work goes a long way here. We've got a lot of opportunities, training programs, and Optimax really invests in their workforce as far as building you up and giving you any kind of training or learning that you need to do. So I think really, in my eyes, the number one thing you can do is just show up, work hard, do your job well, and the sky's kind of the limit from there.
I think there's probably a lot of things I could list for that. I would say leadership and commitment and communication feel like those would be my top three. That's so hard because there are a lot of things that go into it, but just like John said, showing up and being there and doing your job. So having a commitment to others, also committing to communicating and just really taking the leadership role seriously and understanding that there's an effect for everyone else in turn of that. So those would be my top three. So
let's talk more specifically about the benefits that you get to experience. We've, it's come up a bit here, but, for our audience who is learning about an EOT and might be thinking, oh, that might be something I'm interested in, working for an EOT. Could you speak more to specifically what you experience as the benefits to it in your own personal life and maybe professional growth too?
I would say a benefit would be investment. So you feel like that you're being invested in as much as you invest in your work and your job and the company. So oftentimes, I think a lot of people share this within the Great Resignation is you work really hard and you feel like there's no turn in that. You don't see anything for it. You don't feel appreciated, valued. And I think as humans, we strive to feel appreciated and valued in anything we do, especially our work, if we really invest in it. So just, being invested, and then seeing that in turn is really rewarding. It feels good, and it makes you want to do more. And that's important, I think, for a company and a business to grow and have a healthier work-life balance, and just feel good about being there and what you're doing for others, and they're grateful as well.
John Forsyth, how about you?
I mentioned my competitive pay rate earlier. We also do quarterly profit sharing. That's all good. And stuff I'm not really used to in working traditional jobs in the past. And as far as responsibilities and just, I actually have taken on the role of updating our profit and loss, sensitive information that I normally wouldn't have be touching in some regular job. So if I don't do the P&L, then we can't really profit share. So it's me taking on a role that is, I'm forced to summon some responsibility and take ownership. And as far as benefits and responsibilities, that's what I do at Equity Atlas. It feels cohesive. It feels holistic. What I do, I can see a direct result of. So yeah, that's what I'll say for benefits and responsibilities.
And John Farley.
Yeah, I would kind of echo what Nicole said. Just kind of investment, both the company investing in its employees and also the employee investment in their work. Certainly at my previous job, there was very much just a punch the clock mentality of just, you're here to do your job and then go home and call it a day, and not really feeling rewarded or satisfied with what's going on there, versus now, very much invested in the work, because we see the benefits of that at the end of the month, at the end of the year, at the end of the day, really. And having that, with the company investing in their employees with training, and different programs we can do for that, and very much just showing up and working hard and seeing the benefits of that, and feeling.
Okay, great. And maybe John Farley, continuing with that, we've been hearing the benefits that all of you have been sharing, the responsibilities, the opportunities. So with this Great Resignation and Great Reshuffle, what do you think about, is the EOT at least part of the answer to addressing some of the dissatisfaction that employees are talking about?
Sure. Yeah, certainly for me, again, coming from the previous company, say here, it's certainly a night and day difference there. It's funny, at Optimax, we've actually grown during the pandemic. We've actually been thriving during the pandemic. Strangely enough, we're continuing to hire. We're on a pretty big hiring spree right now. We're adding another, I think, 60,000 square foot addition onto the building here. So certainly whatever we're doing seems to be working. It's definitely headed in the right direction that way for us compared to what I've seen in the past.
Nicole, how about you?
Yeah, I think that the EOT is a brilliant solution to the Great Resignation, and everyone who feels that way towards their jobs and work. The increase in pay, the investment towards the job, and then again, the investment back towards the employee, just feeling valued and what it brings to you mentally versus just the physical job. I think that all of those are what people are looking for in their work-life balance. I think it'd be really appealing alternative to a traditional job.
And John Forsyth.
Yeah, so the Great Resignation, I think people have always wanted to have ownership, to be able to own partially what they produce and to share in the wealth and build equity, and and not just be exploited and go home and live paycheck to paycheck. And I think people are tired of it. I think the Great Resignation is a large sign that people want a change. That I think in society generally, we're just undergoing so much change, and these work environments have to change with it. It's and the EOT is really customizable, so it can be resilient in the face of adversity or sudden changes like we saw with the pandemic. So yeah, I definitely think that EOT is a great solution to and a sign of the trend moving towards employee ownership. I think the workplace should be democratized. Words of Professor Richard Wolff. I'm really familiar with his work, and he's really pushing for co-ops. You know, the EOT isn't very well known yet, but I'm sure he would expand on that if he learned about what it is. So yeah, I think this trend is going to continue because people are kind of fed up, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this trend is going to continue towards employee ownership.
The descriptions that all of you give, it sounds so amazing, and it's nice to hear it from the employee side as well as the employer side, you know, to see, is this really matching up, you know, and from all accounts that I've come across so far, you know, it just is, it offers some really positive change that just isn't available, you know, in the way that businesses are typically run. And it's, you know, with only, to my best estimation, about 30 EOTs in the US at this time. Of course, they're more popular in the UK. They're very popular there, but all of you are part of the movement, and, you know, just being part of the change by being a part of it and doing things like sharing your experience here. So thank you for that. And let's take a turn here and look at some questions that have been submitted. And if anybody has any questions who's listening in the live stream, go ahead and put those in the chat. But this one comes in for Nicole. Wendy says, congratulations on your elevation to vice president of your company. What comes next? She says, do you think changing to the EOT helped you climb within your company faster?
Yeah, certainly. Wendy, thank you for your question and being interested in us. I think it's definitely helped me achieve a higher role in a smaller amount of time. And as much as I love this role and the responsibility, and as much as it's needed to be filled, I think it works in both ways. So, you know, people are always wanting to do more, usually are wanting more responsibility, just more investment. And like I said before, the company wants to invest in its employees. So it's certainly helped me a lot, and I'm thrilled about it. And I think everyone else are getting opportunities as well. That's exciting.
Yeah, it's really, really awesome. Okay, and next question. Optimax seems like a great company. Are your friends jealous of the experience you're having at Optimax as an EOT, and if any apply to the company after hearing about it from you?
That's a great question. I don't know that any of my friends have technically applied yet, but yes, I'm sure they're all very jealous, certainly of the profit sharing program. When they see those bonus checks roll in every month, everybody's a little jealous of that.
So that was John Farley. John Forsyth, how about you?
Honestly, I'm not very vocal about my work. But yeah, I mean, if a lot of my friends are still in Georgia, still have yet to get out and meet people here in Portland, Oregon. But the minimum wage in Oregon is abysmal. I think the federal minimum wage is like $7.25, and I don't think that's changed in quite some time. So if they heard about what I'm getting paid, yes, they would be jealous. I'm pretty sure. Excellent.
Thank you. And then our last one that I have here, this is for John Farley. So Tom says Optimax is a very technical, innovation-driven company. And the question is whether you think that the EOT drives innovation in technology, more than a company that isn't an EOT?
Yeah, I would say for sure. Like I said, one of the tenets of the EOT is to continue to grow the business and continue to improve the technology. And we have a pretty large research and development team here that's always looking to advance the technology. Certainly, being in Rochester or the Rochester area of New York, we've seen Kodak and Xerox and a lot of companies like that sort of got stagnant. And sort of fell by the wayside. So we're always looking to innovate and continue to grow in that direction.
Well, that's super interesting. I mean, because I'm the director of the Entrepreneurship Center here at Santa Barbara City College, and it just seems like entrepreneurial skills are just such a good fit for working within the company, being able to identify problems, come up with solutions, collaborate to test things out, that entire skill set. So it's really kind of exciting because I think this demonstrates for our students that, it isn't just that you have to start your own business in order to be innovative and in order to be entrepreneurial, So yeah, it sounds like you're all doing amazing work. And we're actually almost at the end of our time. Let's close with what would be the top recommendation for others who want to seek employment with an EOT? Yeah.
Great. I would say just search for a company that is invested in its employees, that's invested in you, your career path, how you work, how you would fit in, just someone that values their employees versus someone that's looking to just put a filler in place to punch a time clock. All those qualities are going to point you towards a more EOT, if not an actual EOT company, but one that has the same values.
Okay, great. John Forsyth?
Yeah, everything Nicole just said, look for a company that has those values. And I think you could even introduce the idea of where you currently work to introduce the idea of selling to your employees through an EOT exit. If that is, I think that would be, because they probably don't even realize that that's an option. If they're looking to keep the company and have it keep going when they're gone, EOT is a great solution, and they can exit through their employees that way. That doesn't work, you can look up employee-owned registries in your area. And I think the real entrepreneurial thing is to start your own EOT. You really want to work in an employee environment.
That's right. Equity Atlas proved it can be done. Yeah, excellent. Okay, and John Farley.
Yeah, I would just kind of repeat the same things that they said. It really comes down to the values of the company that you're working for. There's a lot of optics companies in the Rochester area, and as I was looking to move out in this direction, I looked at quite a few of them, and you could tell just from talking to the people at Optimax, even just reading on the website, the way that they invest in their employees and the way that they care about making sure everybody's staying, moving forward in growth in their life is certainly a big attractor. So looking for places like that, I think, is a great place to start.
Yeah, so I would just echo both Equity Atlas and Optimax. I did research on your companies, of course, before the podcast series, and it was so clear, how employee centric they are, how much they are standing behind and backing up their employees and really working to create an amazing experience and change in the market, in the business world, so it's so exciting. Thank you to all of you for joining us for the finale of this podcast series. Nicole Elias of Montecito Estate Management, John Farley of Optimax, and John Forsyth of Equity Atlas. Please check the video links below the video for links to these companies and other resources. And for our audience, if you are a business owner in Santa Barbara County who thinks you might be ready to grow your business, maybe even form an EOT or any other growth initiative, be sure to tune in next week because we're going to announce an amazing opportunity that's taking place this summer. So you don't want to miss it. All right. Thanks so much again to the three of you, and have a great week, everyone.